And Senator Murray, whenever you're ready.
Great. Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining this call today. I wanted to take some time to talk about the child care proposal. I wrote that we are now working very hard to pass as part of our Build Back Better budget. This is something that your readers and your viewers or your listeners need to know about. And once we get this done, this will be one of the most important things Congress has ever passed into law to support kids and families, our small businesses, and our entire economy. Because for way too long, childcare was a silent crisis that working parents have had to deal with all on their own. A lot of you probably know this firsthand. Parents, mostly moms, have always had to juggle childcare under impossible circumstances, calling that neighbor for a favor that you hate to ask for, pleading with a provider to bump you up on a waiting list, having to take time off from work, or even quit your job because you simply are out of options. And the pandemic has really pushed the childcare industry to the brink of total collapse. Even with the badly needed relief that we added to the American Rescue Plan earlier this year to shore up the childcare industry, 13% of our childcare centers in Washington state were forced to permanently close their doors. That was a big blow when it was already really hard to find childcare before this pandemic. So now it's more expensive and more difficult than ever before to find childcare. And that is keeping parents, again, mainly women, from getting back to work. So what we're doing is to make sure parents aren't spending more on childcare than their rent or their mortgage. Here's the deal. My childcare proposal will do 4 things. Let me outline them for you. First of all, it will build up the supply of childcare providers in this country through federal grants, so parents do not have to spend years on a wait list to get quality childcare. We've got to invest in the actual physical childcare centers because right now there just are not enough spots for families to enroll their kids, even if they can afford it. Secondly, it will dramatically lower the cost of childcare for the vast majority of working families by ensuring that they spend no more than 7% of what they make on childcare. So under my proposal, no family of 4 in Washington state making less than $254,000 would spend more than 7% of their income on childcare. Families earning very low incomes would spend even less, or in some cases, nothing at all. For example, a family of 4 making $151,000 in Washington state would save $164 per week on childcare. That is about $8,000 per year. Third, my plan will finally support higher wages for childcare workers who are disproportionately women of color. Their work is really critical, and we've got to finally pay them like it is, because staffing needs have led to a severe shortage of childcare options for our families. And finally, and this is really important, my plan will put states on a path to make free, universal pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds a reality. That is free, universal pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds, which is an absolutely essential investment in our kids' futures and development. Preschool costs about $8,600 per year in the United States, so that will be huge for parents. So I also want to be clear, what we are doing with this is rebuilding a badly broken childcare industry from the ground up. I'm a former preschool teacher. I know how much work goes into high quality childcare, and I know we've got to do this and do it right. That's why for the first 3 years, my plan will invest significantly to help our states build more childcare providers and raise provider wages. Part of making childcare more affordable means making sure there's actually childcare available in the first place, and I can't stress that enough. During that time, during the first 3 years, families will start getting the support they need to afford childcare, subsidies that would be available to families immediately. And then over time, as we build up that supply, this will expand to additional families each year to make sure families who make less get help first. And here is the bottom line. Families are going to pay less. Childcare workers will earn higher wages. and childcare providers will be able to increase the number of children they can serve. So finally, in this country, after we build this up and provide this and do it the right way, our childcare system will do what it is intended to do, to allow working parents to do their jobs, knowing their kids are safe and taken care of. Instead of telling parents, you're on your own, figure this out, as we have done for a very long time, it's time that we as a country say, this is all of our problem, not just yours, and we're in this together. So thank you all very much. And let me turn it over to Rasheed to talk with us today. And Rasheed, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Senator Murray. It's really my pleasure to speak briefly about just how enormous this set of policies will be for American families, for generations of children, and for our overall economy. For decades now, we have had incontrovertible and unanimous evidence supporting the fact that investments in children, in young children's education and health are the absolute best return on investment that we can make as a society. Children's brain development, 90% of children's brain development happens before the age of 5. And it is crucial that we set them on a path to happiness and success. And I can speak as a parent of young children to that high quality early childhood education doesn't just make fiscal sense. It's a joyful, wonderful endeavor that we should be proud that we're going to finally invest in at properly. Now, beyond that, I just want to speak to and affirm the Senator's remarks on the cost savings for families. Now, this is something that rivals one's mortgage, sometimes a mortgage packaged together with student loan payments. I can tell you that a lot of families are experiencing serious financial stress, either due to the fact that they can't find childcare and they're not able to participate in the paid labor force the way that they would like, or they are paying upwards of sometimes 15, 20, or 25% of their income towards childcare. Now, lastly, I just wanted to touch on the fact that this is a really serious economic issue in a gender justice issue. We have excluded and pushed out millions of women from the workforce over the past really decades and even longer. But if we want to tap into the actual potential of our economy, that means giving everyone the choice and the freedom to participate in the kind of work that they want to pursue. And for too long, we have really kind of kept a lot of women from being able to participate in the economy in the way that they would like. Finally, just on the universal pre-K, this is such a monumental shift for our educational system and for early educators who we finally want to invest in with good wages and to make this the pay that comes along with this job match the value that it provides to us and our children. And so I cannot support these set of policies anymore. I'm thrilled to see this childcare and universal pre-K invested in at these levels through the Build Back Better Act, and it is going to just pay for itself several times over, I think, into the future. So thank you, Senator Murray, and I'm going to pass it over to Ryan.
Thank you, Rasheed, and thank you as always, Senator, for everything you're doing. First I should say my name is Ryan Pricco. I'm the Director of Policy and Advocacy with Child Care Aware of Washington. We're a statewide nonprofit in the state that helps families find childcare, supports almost all childcare providers with quality improvement, and then we collect an abundance of data throughout the industry and use that data to do my work, which is to try to advocate for effective policies and investments based off of the data we're seeing. And before I get into why we need the Build Back Better proposal, let me get into what the data is telling us currently about the state of childcare in Washington. Right now, about 80% of childcare programs are experiencing staffing shortages. Big reason why is our childcare teachers make poverty wages. In Washington, they make less than parking lot attendants and pet groomers. So currently in our state, you can make more money caring for people's pets and cars than you do caring for people's young children. Because of that, teachers turnover at over a 40% a clip. That was before the pandemic. It's obviously much worse right now with the staffing shortages we're seeing across the economy. The childcare industry has the capacity to serve, we estimate, about half of real demand for childcare. And as was mentioned, most parents, working parents in Washington, live in a childcare desert. Childcare costs currently more in Washington than tuition at our state universities. And that lack of access to childcare impacts our economy. A lack of childcare for employees is currently costing employers in our state billions of dollars every year in expenses related to employee turnover and loss of workplace productivity related to childcare. So for those reasons and more, Washington needs the Build Back Better proposal. As the senator mentioned, the language for childcare in the Build Back Better proposal is modeled after the Child Care for Working Families Act, something the senator has been working on for years and leading us on for years, and something we've been advocating for years. It would cap childcare expenses at 7% of their annual income and invest directly into childcare programs so that they can expand their capacity and actually reach demand. And my favorite thing that this does is it invests directly in the childcare teachers so that educators can come into our industry and finally make a career out of it. All of this equates into high quality care for everyone that needs it, ensuring that all of our youngest children will actually show up at school ready for success in school and life. Currently, about half of our kids are showing up in my wife's kindergarten teaching classroom, ready for success in school and life. And anyone that follows our research knows if you enter K-12 behind, it's very, very hard to catch up. The time to do it, as Rasheed mentioned, is in the early years when over 90% of the brain develops before you ever set foot in K-12. And for more and more families, that time is spent in childcare. In Washington State, we're fortunate to have just passed the Fair Start for Kids Act, which makes transformational investments into childcare affordability and access, but it's not enough. We need the Build Back Better proposal to ensure that no working parent lives in a childcare desert, that programs have the resources they need to serve everyone in their community who needs care, and that childcare teachers are finally compensated appropriately for being what they are, which is America's most important educators. So for this reasons and many more, I stand in full support of everything you're doing, Senator Murray. I thank you for everything you're doing, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that I didn't touch on. Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you,
turn it
Ryan.
over to Amir, please.
Thanks, Ryan. So now